moved into the same building with him in January of 1966, and he was living in the flat on the first floor, and I was renting a room with a bunch of other students in the flat on the second floor with a communal kitchen, and he was this very interesting, colorful figure. He was unlike anybody else who was living in the neighborhood in the slums of San Francisco, and there were all kinds of rumors about who he was and what he was doing there, but none of us spoke Chinese very well, and he didn't speak English very well, and so it was very difficult to communicate and to understand his world. And my entrance to his world was in two ways. One, sometimes when there were Buddhist holidays and 10 or 15 disciples of his from Chinatown would come, they would invite us to lunch, and we understood good vegetarian Chinese food. That language we could speak, And the other was that they told me, well, he opens his door every day at 7 o'clock. You can sit with him for an hour from 7 to 8. He does that every night. I was a little nervous, but the first time I went in, it wasn't very much light. It was pretty dark, and he was seated in full lotus. So you would just come in and sit on one of these cushions and leave. And so that was the other way that I got to know the master, because right away, as soon as I sat down, the energy was just much, much different than at San Francisco Zen Center. And it took me about 6 months to really have any idea of who he was. No matter how deep my meditational states were, that I could feel that he was a catalyst to the progress that I was making in meditation. He was really deeper inside me all the time than I was inside me. So that was very interesting. I'd never experienced anything like that before. And most of his disciples in Chinatown did not come to see him and did not come to make a lot of offerings, and that he was having a very difficult time. But I noticed that whenever anybody brought food and there was extra food, because all the people living in this building were very poor. The master did not have a lot of disciples who were supporting him or felt that it was too difficult for them to go from Chinatown to the Fillmore district. And so the whole building was poverty. It was this broken down Victorian building with lots of cockroaches. And everything was always breaking because the building was so old. He was on the first floor. On the second floor were all these young students. On the third floor there were all these very poor, black, retired men living. And they had been there from before he had moved into the building, and they were still there. So whenever he got extra offerings of food, sometimes he would invite us and actually cook for us, not very often, but incredible food. And then sometimes there was a communal kitchen on the second floor and a communal kitchen on the third floor, and he would take his extra food and put it in the kitchen so that people would have food. And whenever he had extra monetary offerings, he would buy 2 100-pound bags of rice, and he would put one in the kitchen on the second floor, and he would put one in the kitchen on the third floor, so that at the very least people would have rice to eat. So that made a big impression on me as an initial impression of unselfishness. After I had some idea of who he was, and after I felt that, we had shared this meditation space together, and after part of this was developing the notion that I had nothing to fear from him, and that he would always have my best welfare at heart. So I had a very warm, close feeling with him, and I also felt like I was relating with him in a way that the other people in the building were not, because they hadn't tuned into this. So I began to feel that I was somehow special because I had discovered these things about him that other people didn't know, and that I was, having these meditation experiences with him. And so after I took refuge, one of the first lessons that the Master had to teach me was that I really wasn't special and that nobody's special, and we're all equal, and we all have the Buddha nature, and that this was a kind of arrogance on my part that I had to let go of if I was going to really study with him. So in the early days, the Master really put in a lot of time and energy into us, and then after, however many years, there were more and more people coming, and we kind of voluntarily got out of the way to, leave room for the other people to be close to the Master so he could teach them more directly. So he set up the schedule for the Sharangama summer session in such a way that we were capable of doing it, but it was pushing us a little. And he encouraged us always to experiment on our own. He was not somebody who said, I'm up here and you're down here and you do whatever I tell you to do and don't question it. He was never like that. He always wanted us to discover the Buddha Dharma from inside, and to encourage us to think about what he was teaching us and to apply it to our lives. And the Master was amazingly patient with these, trying to help people out of these deep karmic holes that they were digging for themselves, and really tried to work with everybody, no matter where they were, and help them to suffer a little less. There's nothing really that special about any of my meditation experience over the years, and I particularly feel that it's important to not concentrate too much on special experience, because in this culture, I think that that's, particularly for my generation, you can answer for yourselves, that one of the obstacles that we've had to understanding the Buddha Dharma is to think it's about extraordinary experience, And I think one of the lessons that we've learned from the Master was that it's not about extraordinary experience. It's about, everyday interaction with people and the environment in very, very ordinary ways. For example, the Master going around and pulling the weeds out of the cracks in the street when other people thought that they were too busy to do that sort of things, and being kind to everyone, no matter what, and never putting yourself before other people. Those are the things that, are the lasting lessons that I really feel were most important to me, not the flashy experiences. Just to give you just another brief glimpse of Shifu and the environment, one night in wonderful Words Hall in the middle of the winter, he said to the assembly, he said, we're having a very hard winter, and it's really hard for the birds to survive, so would you please go out and get some grain for them and mantra the grain and then spread it out on the street so none of it will get lost in the grass. And he told them where to do it so that the birds will have food to eat to get them through the winter. So maybe you haven't heard this story before, but it's this kind of, everyday concern for all sentient beings that to me is much more important than Shifu did this amazing thing or did this amazing healing or whatever. All that's true, but is that really what his main message was? I don't think so.
我所学的佛法，我有没有照着去做去？每一天呢，应该这样检讨自己，不要总去追求什么是神通，什么是妙用，怎么样我能得到佛法的利益？不要想着，你只要能天天改过自新，合乎佛法的事情，你就去做去；不合法的事情，就把它停止。那么这样去做，由早晨到晚间，时时刻刻念兹在兹，要在这个地方用行住坐卧，都是检讨自己的错误。你能这样，与佛法一定会相应，一定会有所成就。